I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. Woohoo! We're live. We're live on Zoom and recording. We're live on Facebook. So, hi everybody. I am Rebekah Beneteau. I am an Access Bars facilitator, energy healer, sexuality coach, and the creatrix behind Pleasure Evolution. And I'm here with my dear friend. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, my name's Max, 6'2" Sacral generator. I'm a philosopher, Tantric educator, and kind of a also hang out in the garden type.
Yes, and
carving spoons in my spare time.
And a student and sage in human design, which is one of the tools we're going to be talking about today. So I want to make sure people know that about you.
Excellent. Yeah, we wanted to, because since part of the theme of this little group of chats is embodiment, we just want to invite all of us in this moment to feel some somatic presence within ourselves, even though we're talking online, and kind of tuning into this beautiful day. Springtime abounds in most places, and we are feeling the glistening movement of birds and the bees, anchoring into your feet and your seat, and whatever for you may be the root of goodness that comes from the soil and from Gaia, etc. All that.
Yeah, and maybe just take another couple of minutes to mindfully breathe. Really deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth, and allowing that breath to move through the cells of your body. Yes. Letting the pleasure of that just move through, being really grateful too, like, hello, sweet body, thanks for sticking with me. So,
being healthy and alive.
Yeah. So a couple of months ago, actually, Max, Aaron, and I started meeting on a weekly basis on Zoom to just kind of mastermind and support each other in expressing ourselves in the world and processing through things that were coming up that were maybe obstacles to that, and supporting each other and with our wisdom. And it just occurred to us last week that we had a lot to offer, and that we wanted to take these conversations to a larger audience about how to use this time to thrive, not just survive, not just get by, but that our contribution to everybody, could be these ideas that we have about how to move through chaos and change and trauma and drama in ways that are the most effective and productive, right?
Exactly. I feel like for so many of us, this is for humanity, it's such a huge window of opportunity. Like if we were to take a Vipassana retreat or a silent retreat, or go out in the woods for 10 days to really get into our deeper self, that might be a special treat. But how often does all of humanity take a break from itself? So feeling this collective, ripple of, let's try to experience and share and be compassionate in a way that we have not in the past. So I see this as such a great opportunity. And one of our housemates, Charles, put it really well. We were doing a ritual last week, and he said, I feel like this is the time that I was born for. And those words really stuck with me, the way that he said them and the way that I heard them.
Wait, Max, hang on. I accidentally muted you when I went to mute everyone else. Okay, backtrack. You were talking about Charles.
Did you hear the last part I said about Charles?
No, that's where we lost you. So.
Charles mentioned that he said, I think this is the time that I was born to be alive in, and where his skills are going to be really useful. And that's been really true. He's one of our housemates, and he's just been offering so much of himself to the rest of us. But I just feeling like it's something that's maybe intangible, but feeling a synchronicity that's rippling out. I take bike rides in the morning and see people that might just normally be up in their own yards. They're waving and checking in and saying hi, and the people walking their dogs and their babies. So I'm experiencing so much of the joy and bliss of that visceral connection. And it's quite different when people say, oh, the world's going crazy and people are so afraid and there's so much breakdown. Actually has not been my experience. And I'm not discounting that it may be somebody's, but it hasn't been the experience of people that I'm around.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think everything is just, it's intrinsically, it is what it is, but what matters is what we make of it. And that's, that's where we have a choice. And, but particularly, so a question, you know, I'm a big student of Access and teacher of Access Consciousness, and Access Consciousness believes that it's important to live in the question. And you ask a question, not to get an answer necessarily, but to bring up awareness. So one of the questions that I've really been playing with is, what do I have the capacity to be and do that I have not been willing to be and do? That if I were willing to be and do it, could change this situation.
Could you repeat that question? That's a good one. Could you just repeat the question again?
Sure. What do I have the capacity to be and do that I have not been willing to be and do, that if I were willing to be and do it, would change everything exponentially? And then you just wait and see what shows up, what inspirations you get, what invitations you get that you can, you know, follow through on. And also I want to go back to what we talked about, inner versus outer authority. You know, we're in a space of information overload, I think. And even this morning, a woman sent me an audio of a guy talking about how ibuprofen is making the disease worse. And I just checked in with myself and I was like, I don't think that's true. And then I looked it up and it's not true. And this is where it becomes really important to develop a reliable source of inner authority in the face of misinformation. And, you know, even sometimes the information is good information, but it's not true for you. I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars I've spent on expensive coaches trying to replicate what they told me was the way to build a successful business.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't work for me. And it wasn't until I started working with a coach who really encouraged me to develop the tools for what would work for me and my business, and started following my inner authority, that I started to increase my impact and my income. So.
Sounds simple, but it's such a good thing to remember.
Yeah,
I think that I just wanted to, you know, give a chance to put out there a definition. You know, some of us that are in the human design system are more familiar with authority, but on a very simple level, outer authority is something that comes from the outside that may be information or emotion, or it could be a situation that says, this is what's going on, or that says, this is a point of view, listen to it. And inner authority is something that comes from a non-mental place, that is, what do we resonate to? What do we feel synchronicity with? What do we feel a sense of cellular, and I like to say parasympathetic, but at a deeper gut, sacral or solar plexus level, where do we feel a resonance to the field that we're vibrating with? So we're given many opportunities to take in authorities from elsewhere, particularly during times like this when there's a so-called, say, emergency, and a lot of external sources like that can give us a feeling of fear, or the feeling of confusion, or the feeling of overwhelm. So something that I like to practice is to check in, as Rebekah said, is this information that's coming to me, am I ready to receive it? Is it even appropriate for me to tune into it? And is it something that maybe is appropriate for someone else, or for myself at another time? So in the human design system, we would see the mind is really useful for research, not as useful for making decisions. And we know that in other spiritual traditions as well, Buddhism, etc., there's the no mind, the 0 point, the place of silence. So where can we find within ourselves that place of quietude and a deeper sense of knowing?
Mm.
I'm feeling a little distracted by someone's screen. I'm going to
How
turn
did
this
that
off.
come up? Are you guys seeing that?
Yeah, that's
Susan.
Yeah.
Somebody is sharing your screen.
You have
and-
to hit the stop sharing button at the top.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, there we go.
So an example of inner and outer, I think that most of us run into, is we all are familiar with social media and being tuned into television or social media sources. And there's a point, like for me, that's where I find my inspiration, tuning into people that are long distance, international friends, and what they're doing, what they're thinking and feeling. However, there's going to be a point where the body mind is going to say, enough, turn off the screen, go back outside or do something else, meditate, go to sleep. And I think that for all of us is finding that point of balance is really important right now, to discern between what we are actually exposing ourselves to. Because you could say the virus is, possibly a microbe, has, that's up to debate. But the virus is also could be a point of view or a mental fear. The virus could be something that's invading us. It does not belong in our system. So just like we would protect ourselves from a common cold, I feel like we also can protect ourselves from digital information that's coming into our system that can be toxic. And we often don't realize it's toxic till later, feeling unbalanced, afraid, exhausted, worried, any of that. So I think, most of those in this conversation right now all realize that already, but it's just a good reminder to take it a little more deeply.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a case of being really tuned into ourselves as much as possible, and being aware that I liken it to someone sitting and blowing cigar smoke in your face. You wouldn't let them do that to you physically, but when you're around that emotionally, other things come up, other messages. I should be nice. Especially those of us who are healers, we overextend ourselves. And we're going to talk more in, I think tomorrow is about self-nurturance and self-care. But one of the ways that you can tell that you're starting to go beyond your surplus is when you start to feel heavy, when you start to feel agitated, upset. It's a good thing to be able to listen to those warnings from yourself and take the step back. Another question that I'm really liking is, body, what do you need right now? Do you need to move? Do you need to drink some water? Last night it was very clear I needed to watch only funny things. So, so I did that, comedies on Netflix. So I think, we promised to keep these to like 20 minutes max. And that's why we're going to do these for the next 5 days. And each day is going to have a different focus. So please come back and join us on the other days. I think what we wanted to leave them with was a little home play, right? Of how they can play with discerning your inner voice from your outer voice. until we see you again, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And also, I'll just briefly mention that this is a love offering from us to you. But if you would if you would like to make a love offering back, you can go to paypal.me/pleasure evolution to make a contribution. And yeah, we really hope that you join us for these little lunchtime love every day. So Max, how do you answer from your inner authority in human design?
Could you say that? How do I test?
Yeah.
Sure. For me, it's the sacral response, which basically 70% of humanity are sacral beings. So there's a nonverbal or a silent maybe that's not a neutral. And so I feel it as a sacral inner buzz. And that can be something that could be a little slightly different voice for each of us. An example would be that most of us have either a sacral response or an emotional response or something that comes from a splenic or ego place. And so it's going to be often an energy that we're responding to, or if we're not our generator, that we're feeling inside of us. And that is something that can be learned and studied. So I enjoyed for people to play with that and share.
Yeah, I'm emotionally. Janice is saying that not all generators are sacrally defined. That's true.
Yeah.
But there are other modalities. It doesn't even necessarily have to be tied to what your human design is. If you're not a human design or you're not aware of what you are, for me, it is a body response. And I mean, I like to say this, if you received an invitation like, hey, would you like to go to the beach? Hey, can I give you $1,000? What does your body do? For me, my yes feels just like expansive. It feels light. It feels opening. My pussy gets tingly. These are the responses that I listen to. And if you invite me to something like, hey, would you do my taxes? For me, at least, that would be like, I feel more contracted. I feel more dense. I feel withdrawn. And in Access Consciousness, we use the tool of light and heavy. What will this create? If it feels light, it's true for you. It will, will this create a future worth having? Is another good question from Access Consciousness. And you can do that about everything. If I buy you, will you create a future worth having? Yes or no? Do you feel light and it's true for you? If you feel heavy, no. And I have experienced that I've turned down jobs, apartments, men, that on paper looked really great, right? But our mind can only calculate what something is going to yield based on what it's already seen and already knows. It's a calculator. Right. That's why getting into your energetic response is so helpful, because when you get beyond your mind, you're responding to your innate knowing of the energy and what the future can hold without being able to figure it out. Every time I've said no to something or yes to something, despite the intellectual reasons, it has proven to be the right thing to do. And oh, look at me, there goes my phone, over and over. So,
well, I think that part of the point is, and Janice mentioned, like right now, if you're listening in, there's the chatting going on. That's an outer authority. So it's finding for each of us that unique place where we have knowingness, and it is going to be, it's not a simple. It's not always a simple clarity that comes from that. I know, sharing with my partner Philippe, that we're often surprised by our own responses, and that's like part of the joy of being a non-mental being, is that we usually don't know actually what's going to happen and what we're going to respond to. So it's different for each person.
Yeah, so find out what's true for you. Other people muscle test. when asking, you know, if you
Mhm.
strong, it's yes. And if it separates, it's no. But, you know, so your invitation, we thought we'd give you a little home play today, is to check in with yourself about everything, big and small. How many places are you functioning from automatic pilot? Like I always drink green tea every morning, so I'm going to make green tea today. Instead of going, hey buddy, do you want green tea? And then seeing what you get. And, you know, it's just play with it and build the muscle of your own discernment. So.
Yeah, exactly. Just a really good time to do that.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we're going to talk some more about, you know, different tips, and we can all share with each other self-nurturing tips. I've noticed that the things that work for me usually are working really well now. So just being encouraged to do more of the behaviors that would, in any given day, make me feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to talk about self-care and self-nurturance. I don't even know what else we're going to talk about, but I know that's the very next one. Fear. And I know the last one is creation, you know, so once we really build this muscle, we're going to start recognizing what can we create, what can we contribute, how can we use this time to inspire us to greatness. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. If anybody has anything they want to say, you can unmute yourself or you can put it into the chat. Helen. Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. I feel so in alignment with what you're saying. Every single thing, that it's such an opportunity for us to develop our consciousness, for us to develop our intuitive awareness, and for us to have incredibly joyous, pleasurable, ecstatic experiences. That, you know, it's like today, we're alive today, we're well today. You know, I keeping my mind from projecting into the future and just say, you know what, I'm good today. I'm going to look outside and I'm going to go outside and I'm going to love my life. And I love what you're saying about the discernment. I mean, I was practicing exactly the same thing. Now's a good time to count the squares of toilet paper, you know, not to be wasteful. You know what I'm saying? It's everywhere. So I love what you're saying. And thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Helen. All right. Anybody else before we sign out?
Hi, I'm Susan from Berkeley. I'm Lisa's mother. And I've considered this shelter in place my artist. I'm being an artist in residence. It's fabulous.
Artist in residence.
I've done, and I'm going to ask you guys to be involved with this. At Wednesday at noon, we're asking people all around the world to sing a song. Lisa has the information, but we're getting video and take a video or a photo of what you're doing, but all over like a wave, all with, you know, doing the same thing, singing, trying to keep people's hearts open. So
beautiful.
Bye.
Thanks, Susan. Tell us what the song is.
Oh, don't worry, be happy. I'll get the links. I mean, well, you can just check yourself, check the words. But if we start at noon and we don't get to sing together, we'll all be in the same kind of, and then make a sign that says where you are, Asheville, wherever you are. And we're going to put them all up and do a great big thing with everybody all over the world singing. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. Lisa, I'm jealous. My mom hasn't got a clue how to use webcam, and she's in New York and I'm in Tampa. So. All right, well, my lovelies, until we see you again, as we say here at Pleasure Evolution, do what gets your panties wet. If you're not wearing any panties, because you're sheltering in place, just do what lights you up and what excites you. And I hope to see you all again in the rest of the series. Bye, loves.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings.
Lisa.